One of 3 GOP congressional chairmen requesting the detailed memos Comey says he kept after encounters with President Trump. They set a deadline for tomorrow, April 16th. Joining me right now is Republican Congressman Bob Goodlatte, who is also the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. Mr. Chairman, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
It's great to be with you, Maria.
Let's talk about those memos. I have the letter in front of me that you sent to Rod Rosenstein, saying that you're requesting the Department of Justice make copies of the Comey memos available immediately, no later than the close of business this Monday. Of course, we know that Jim Comey passed some of those memos to his friend, a professor, and then the New York Times. Tell us what you're looking to receive here.
Well, we're looking to receive the unredacted Comey memos so that we have the opportunity to see what Mr. Comey is telling the people in his book compared to what is occurring in terms of his recounting of his meetings with the president earlier last year. It's very important that the American people get to hear the whole story. Mr. Comey is out aggrandizing himself. He's out for revenge, I would say. When he talks about a higher justice, he's really talking about a higher view of himself than I think the American people have, but they need to have all the facts, and the Comey memos certainly play a part of that. These are in the possession of the Department of Justice and Special Counsel Mueller, and there's absolutely no reason why they should not be made available. There's no legal principle to not make them available to the Congress.
Well, Congressman, 3 weeks ago you appeared on this program and you broke the news that you would in fact subpoena the Department of Justice, the FBI, if you did not receive the 1.2 million documents that you had requested. At that time, you and your colleagues had been given 3,000 documents out of the 1.2 million documents. How many of those have you received at this point?
We have not received very many of those documents, and as you know, we issued the subpoena, and we have had some progress because the Department of Justice appointed, the Attorney General Sessions appointed John Losh, who is the United States Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, specifically charged with producing those documents. I've had 2 meetings with Mr. Losh so far. My staff have had additional meetings, and I believe that we're very close to being able to get access to those documents later this week.
But, Congressman, I mean, with all due respect, what are you going to do? I mean, you're looking for the Comey memos. The deadline is tomorrow. You've put a deadline in place to get these 1.2 million documents. You've only received 3,000 or 4,000 of those 1.2 million documents. You've said that if we don't get these documents, we're going to move toward contempt of Congress. What does that mean, and is that realistic? I mean, if you move to contempt of, is that the next step, by the way? Or if you don't get these documents, what are you going to do?
Well, we have additional steps we can take, and we will continue to do that. There's a lot of pressure on the Federal Bureau of Investigation and on the Department of Justice to produce these documents. I think the fact that they've now appointed 2 United States attorneys, one to oversee the investigation from outside of the main Department of Justice. I still think we need a special counsel into what my committee and Chairman Gowdy's committee are looking into with regard to how the FBI handled investigations into Hillary Clinton and into both campaigns in 2016 and into 2017. We have made progress in that regard. Now we have a new United States attorney overseeing the production of these documents. We don't have the documents yet. We don't have access to the documents, but I believe we will have them very soon based upon the discussions that we're undertaking. If we do not, we are prepared to take additional steps. And I believe that people in the administration very much want to have the Congress get these documents so that we can, A, conduct our investigation, but B, also recognize the right of the Congress and the American people to have access to information so that these investigations, this oversight can be conducted.
And one of those tools, as you've said in the past, would be putting them in contempt of Congress with eventually impeachment proceedings. Wouldn't that effectively mean that you would look to fire or impeach certain people of the Department of Justice, senior people like Rod Rosenstein? Are you prepared to go as far as firing Rod Rosenstein?
All of those tools are on the table, but I don't think we should say what we're going to do until we actually reach a decision that we have to do it. But we have shown a willingness to issue subpoenas and to take our case to the Attorney General of the United States and to take our case to the American people. We'll continue to do that. The Congress is entitled to these documents, and we'll get them.
Congressman, I have here the Office of the Inspector General IG report, or the beginning or part of the IG report that was dropped late Friday night. Can you talk to us about this? This is the internal watchdog. Of course, this is about McCabe, Andrew McCabe, misleading investigators and his former boss, Jim Comey, and the leaks to the media regarding an investigation of the Clinton Foundation. What struck you most? What was most important out of this IG report, which was dropped on Friday night?
Well, first of all, I think the Inspector General's report clearly confirms the decision within the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation to fire the Deputy Director of the FBI, Mr. McCabe. It's very unfortunate that a long career on the part of Mr. McCabe would end in the fashion that it did, but based upon this report and the original findings by the Office of Professional Responsibility, by the way, and not a political decision, the Office of Professional Responsibility found that Mr. McCabe took inappropriate actions and then lied about them. And as a result of that, I think it's very important that the Inspector General report is out there now and confirms that the correct decision was made to remove him from office.
So in terms of Andrew McCabe lying 3 times under oath, which is what we learned from this report from the Inspector General, there's also part of this report detailing a phone call which Andrew McCabe took from a higher up at the Department of Justice, the Assistant Attorney General. And he said that that was the most aggressive call he had ever received, where he had to ask that person, are you asking me to shut down this investigation of the Clinton Foundation? Tell us about that. I mean, does that indicate that this goes higher up than we knew in terms of into the Obama administration?
Well, it may very well go higher up. It may even go all the way into the Obama White House. That's why it is so important that the investigation that we launched last fall into how the FBI and the Department of Justice handled the Hillary Clinton email investigation, and the connection between that and how they launched an investigation into the Trump campaign that carried on into 2017 when the president actually took office. The contrast between how the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation handled the investigation into all the aspects of what was going on with Hillary Clinton, with her emails, with the Clinton Foundation, and so on. Bending over backwards to not prosecute, to not investigate properly, to not continue to investigate is very disturbing when you compare that to the page-struck email and texts which indicate very strongly an extreme bias against the Trump campaign and President Trump and his administration.
That's right.
We cannot have this persist. We certainly can't have it go into the next presidential election in 2020. The American people deserve better from America's premier law enforcement organization. And by the way, they get that from tens of thousands of rank-and-file FBI personnel who every day keep us safe, fight terrorism, solve crimes. They're doing their job, and they deserve better than to be besmirched by several people at the top of that organization who, thankfully, like Mr. Comey, are no longer, most of them are no longer there.
There may not be there, but many of them are still there in different positions, and they still have security clearances. Isn't that right, Congressman?
That is right, and those that are still there, based upon information I've seen, should be removed, and I hope that the Department and the Bureau are taking the steps necessary to finish that job, because it is very important that justice be served, and people who are not serving justice should not be in the Department of Justice or the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Congressman, we're going to take a short break. I want to ask you about criminal referrals when we come right back. Congressman Goodlatte, stay with us. We'll be right back. Then we'll talk with Congressman John Ratcliffe and Congressman Ed Royce on America's future role in Syria. Follow me on Twitter at Maria Bartiromo at Sunday Futures. Let us know what you'd like to hear from our guests this morning as as we look ahead on Sunday Morning Futures. Back in a moment. Welcome back, and we are back with Virginia Congressman Bob Goodlatte, chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, just a few days after the Inspector General dropped the beginning of the Inspector General report, which has been highly anticipated. And this part of the report, Congressman, is dealing with Andrew McCabe and how he lied on 4 different occasions, 3 times under oath. It appears now that McCabe and Comey and Loretta Lynch are contradicting each other in terms of what went on. A moment ago, we were talking about that phone call that Andrew McCabe discussed, having heard from senior Attorney General assistants about the Clinton investigation. And you said this may very well go higher up into the Obama White House. What do you expect?
Well, I don't want to say what I expect. I want to say that this investigation needs to be thoroughly pursued within the Department of Justice, within the Federal Bureau of Investigation under its new leadership with Christopher Wray, by the outside United States Attorney, Mr. Huber from Utah, outside of Maine Justice, who's been appointed by Attorney General Sessions to look into this, and by the United States Congress. And it's why we need to have access to those documents. And certainly the United States Attorney can take the appropriate steps to pursue appropriate criminal action if it is warranted.
Are there criminal referrals within this IG report?
I do not know the answer to that, but certainly those examining the report can make a determination whether or not they should pursue that, regardless of whether or not the Inspector General believes that to be the case. They can take his information, the information they have themselves, and make the appropriate decision to do that. And they should if the Inspector General and or the outside United States Attorney and the Department of Justice itself believes that Mr. McCabe took steps that violated the law.
Well, I mean, what I'm asking really is the American people want to know, where is this going? You know, we know now that the Inspector General says that Andrew McCabe lied under oath. And we know now that he was overseeing the Clinton investigation as well as the Trump investigation up until a week before the election. We know that there was a conflict with his wife, having received hundreds of thousands of dollars before that in her failed bid for a state Senate seat. So where does this go? I mean, will people feel like there was accountability? Because we know plenty of other people who have gone to jail for lying under oath, which is a felony.
Well, well, you're absolutely right, Maria. And the fact of the matter is that the Department of Justice should pursue the truth wherever it leads them and should draw the appropriate conclusions about whether or not Mr. McCabe committed perjury or violated some other law that requires action be taken in that regard. And I certainly support continuing this investigation on their part, because that's exactly what we're trying to do in the House of Representatives, considering the fact that nothing was done during the Obama years and very little was done at the beginning of this administration to pursue these facts. And the fact that we have persisted in this regard and the department is waking up to the reality that serious damage has been done to the important reputation of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, that's all a part of restoring the American people's trust in the premier law enforcement organization of the country.
And yet, astoundingly, all of this has occurred on Jim Comey's watch. And he right now is on a book tour talking about his new book, talking about his criticism of President Trump, and very few questions about his performance and his underlings' performance, like Andrew McCabe, and their complicit abuse of power.
Again, that's the reason why Chairman Gowdy and I have launched this investigation between the Judiciary Committee and the Oversight and Government Reform Committee into what happened in the leadership of the FBI during the 2016 election. And Democrats and independents, everyone, American people should be very concerned about the matters that were undertaken at that time. And Democrats should be extremely concerned about the fact that Mr. Comey announced publicly a week or 10 days before the election that he was reopening the investigation. He could have informed people in the Congress prior to reopening that investigation that he was going to do so, and then the facts could have come out after the election. But if I were a Democrat, I'd be very disturbed about the fact that he made that decision. I think his book is going to confirm that he took inappropriate steps here, and that Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein, who's the person who actually made the decision to terminate Mr. Comey, made the correct decision.
All right, we will leave it there. Mr. Chairman, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Maria.
We appreciate it. More on the Jim Comey book with House Judiciary Committee member John Ratcliffe of Texas. He will join me next to discuss the new report from the Department of Justice detailing its reasons behind the firing of former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe and how this plays into the internal Justice Department investigation on the Bureau's actions